All right, so last session, we're going to talk about connecting with fans. So connecting with fans of your brands, connecting with fans of Walmart, and connecting with fans of country music. So in just a few minutes, we're going to have country music sensation Hunter Hayes up here on stage for a fireside chat. Before we do that, I just wanted to very briefly, I promise briefly, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Mike. I am the head of Shopper Marketing for WHOSAY. WHOSAY Shopper is the shopper marketing arm of Viacom. So at WHOSAY Shopper, we create social content and shopper experiences in store. Okay, so our products include social influence, using top-tier talent. We have creative, production, and talent all in-house, as well as media distribution. And then our other product is retailtainment. So we talked a little bit on the last panel about creating surprise and delight moments, celebrity meet and greets, just anything out of the norm. Anything, don't look at the playbook from yesteryear. Let's figure out something else really cool to do. Okay, so that's what we'd like to do together. So in a minute, we're going to bring Hunter out. Before I do, I just wanted to kind of set the framework for the conversation. So I'm going to do that by sharing just 4 quick best practices around connecting with fans. The first being create shareable moments, right? You heard me say that before, right? We want to create moments that fans will share. We want to create moments so that the shoppers are creating the content for you and that they're sharing that. Okay, that doesn't happen with your standard playbook retailtainment executions. We want to create bigger moments. Okay. The second point is while your fans are capturing content during those moments and your fans are snapping pictures, your fans are sharing that content on social. In fact, 50% of shoppers say they'll share between 2 to 5 posts about a branded experience. But we also encourage you to capture your own content, okay? Because you want to scale that event. When you have an experience with a fan or you have an experience with a shopper, you want to be able to scale that and distribute that broadly using social. Also taking that content in store, putting it on in-store packaging, on display, and so on. So the third point is to get it out there, right? That's the idea of scaling it. That's the idea of getting those expanded usage rights. So when you capture the content, you want to be able to put that through social, which is the #1 digital platform for influencing shoppers. But you also want to take that in-store on the screens at the back of the store. You want to put them on in-store displays, on pole signs, and so on. So that's how you scale that investment. Okay, and the last point as we transition is be authentic, man. Be brand safe, okay? Be authentic to your brand. Also be authentic to the Walmart brand or to your retail partner's brand. Okay, so that leads me to what is more authentic to the Walmart brand than country music, right? So without further ado, I just want to take a minute and introduce Hunter Hayes. So Hunter is a Grammy-nominated, CMT awarded, Billboard Choice awarded, Kids Choice awarded, many, many awards, more than I'm listing here. Hunter actually started performing. I mean, he's a prodigy, right? He plays 30 instruments. He started his career at 2 years old, performed in the White House for President Bill Clinton at 7 years old. All of this happening in youth. At 17, he moved to Nashville. He's taken Nashville by storm. His hit Wanted, when it hit #1 on the chart, that made Hunter the youngest solo male performer to reach #1 on the chart. So please give a welcome to Hunter Hayes.
Thanks for having me, all. I really appreciate it. I feel very unqualified to speak in front of you, but I'm happy to be here. So just break the ice with that.
Yeah, this is so cool, man. Look at this, Hunter Hayes. So I'm excited. So Hunter, it's well known that you're a talented musician, instrumentalist, songwriter. I mentioned all these awards, right? All these awards that I read off, and it seems to me, you look at the People's Choice Award, you look at the Kids' Choice Awards, you seem to do particularly well with fan-voted awards. So to me, that's evidence of a rabid fan base. So tell me, how do you connect with your fans?
Man, So I don't really, I'm not of the marketing mind. I'm lucky because obviously I do what I love. I mean, that's the easy part. And that's kind of the guilty part of it is that we've always had a very active fan base. You know, we've categorized it. We were just talking about this earlier, actually, on a completely unrelated note. But you know, like, love, share. Our fans are sharers. They are very passionate, and I think honestly, at the end of the day, maybe intentionally by someone other than myself. Maybe there's somebody. Obviously, I work with a lot of really smart people, but at least for me, my biggest thing is reaching. My audience at the end of the day is probably it starts from people like me, because I'm talking. You know, if I'm being honest, if I'm writing things that are real for me. If I'm diving in and being a proper artist, being vulnerable, being transparent, I'm talking about things that matter to me. And so my audience is not really my audience. They're more or less my age group, my friends, you know. And it goes all over. And we've seen an awesome, an incredible, wide age group of people at the shows and all that stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it wasn't really designed. We didn't go at the first album designing how we were going to reach people. We just started with the music and started from, you've heard the famous TED Talks and all the great things about it. Started from the why. Why do I do this? Because I love it. Why am I singing about this? Because it matters to me. And at the end of the day, I think, that's why we ended up with the fan base that we have, and they're still here after sort of 4 years in between the last album and this new sort of cycle that we're starting, because we've stayed true to that. It's always been why, because this matters to me, and I think they can hopefully relate to that, but hopefully it's because they see that and feel that, Yeah.
And it's been an incredible pleasure getting to know you. I've been a fan, for a while, but over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten to know you a little bit. And I mean, this dude is authentic. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, he's doing this out of passion, and his fans know that. Fans know when you're fake, right? So you got to be authentic.
Yeah. It's funny because it's they might not know at first, but I think that's time tells all. And if your design is, hey, let's do this real quick and flash in the pan, and then you can, sometimes you can get away with inauthentic moments, but that's not a lifelong career. And for me, I want to be doing this when I'm 60, 70, 80, as long as I physically can,
For sure, and you will. So a great way to connect with fans is through social, right? So we've been talking a lot about social. And we all have brands, and we're trying to connect our brands with fans of our brands or fans of the Walmart brand. What can you tell us about how you connect with fans on social? So
I'm a naturally shy human being. I know, shocking. But I chose a really interesting career path. But I explain to people who come to our show for the first time at every show, this is actually the only place where I feel like I can be myself. Which is really strange because my family's not musical, so it's not like I knew I was going to do music. But what I'm getting to is, I'm a naturally shy guy, so I'll comment on things on social media, sometimes on Instagram, because that happens to be my favorite just at the moment, because I'm obsessed with photography. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think a caption can multiply that. But I'll interact that way. But for me, honestly, at the end of the day, it's in person. When we're on tour, we've got a meet and greet that's a ticketed event, but we've also got 2 to 3 to 5 different ways to interact with fans in person, that we can reach them, whether they have access to certain things or not, right? There's some social media things, but there's also just it's kind of known, at the end of the show, typically before the bus pulls out, we'll go and just say hey to whoever's left, whoever's still there. And so we've tried to create moments where anybody can access directly in person, because I feel like that's when people get to know me. If they haven't gotten to know me through the show, which the show is designed to totally break down the walls. And the music was written, especially in this chapter, I feel like this is the most sort of like scary honest I think I've ever been. And so, but it's all based on that one-on-one interaction. So anything that we do in social media world is always driving to how do I get to be in person with somebody, you know?
I think that's brilliant. We've been talking a lot about these moments, shareable moments and in-person moments. And you can connect with your fans so much better one-on-one in person like you do. And you have to go out of your way to do that. Now, that's not always, scalable. You've got millions of fans. You can't meet in person with millions and tens of millions of fans. But you can meet with as many as you do, and you make that effort to do that, and then you can leverage social then to share that experience and share your passions to millions.
Yeah, not that necessarily I think about it, but in thinking about it in the context of this so that I could try to explain it, I feel like in person, we're able to sort of light this fire, this relationship, this connection, and social media allows us to kind of just fan that flame and keep it going. And again, it's about creating an environment too. The in-person thing's not just, if you meet me, we're going to be best friends. It's the goal is to create an environment at the show with the music, with the interaction, a very safe environment and one that you want to be in. Yeah.
So this group, or at least me, I can't speak for the group, right? But we're all curious about the celebrity lifestyle, and and you talk about creating these moments and at the concerts and creating these moments. Is there any moment that stands out or that would surprise me or anybody out here? I'm asking for them.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. I mean, there's plenty. Go deeper into that question.
Sure. So, rabid fans.
Yeah.
That blew your mind. You show up at a venue and to create a surprise and delight moment for your fans, and yet they in turn surprised and delighted you.
Yep, got it. Okay, so I wrote a song earlier this year with Andy Grammer, who I'm a huge fan of, but we've never written together. And we started off doing his podcast, which is incredible. And if you like podcasts at all, / if you have a heart and a soul, it's worth at least 10 minutes of your time to listen to. Not just you don't have to listen to mine, but just listen to this podcast in general. It's called The Good Parts, and it tackles sort of faith and misconception of faith / religion and all that good stuff in a very human way. So we had this conversation, and kind of my deal, or our deal with him was like, yeah, we'll do the podcast if you're willing to stay and write. So I had him captive in my basement, right? And we started writing, and first of all, the conversation, the beautiful thing about writing songs is typically you want to have a 45-minute conversation before anybody in the room says, okay, well, what do you want to write today? Because if you ask that before that conversation, you've taken the human element completely out of the song. If you've had this human moment, you can write about the conversation that you're having, and that's 10 times more effective. And so the brilliant thing is that the conversation that led to the song is out for the world to hear. But we started writing this song. I had started writing this letter to the world, and I realized I was writing a letter to God. And so I wrote another letter on the plane on my way back to Nashville right before we were going to write. So I had this title, Dear God. We started talking about it. He starts, pacing the room because he's just full of energy. And he sang this beautiful chorus. We'll jumble words in the middle. We'll just make up stuff, and as long as it's got a beginning and an end, as long as we know where we're going, we like having shapes as writers. And he finished the chorus with, "Dear God, are you sure that you don't mess up?" And obviously, as a man of faith, not necessarily religion, but of faith, I had a hard time with that. But the first verse says, "Here I go again. 3 glasses in, counting my sins, home alone again. It's 3 a.m, just me and my demons at war again, so I'm calling in, are you listening?" My fans have never heard any of those things from me. They know that I stay up late. Now they know that I drink scotch. But thanks to the song you heard when I was walking up. But they've never heard any of these things. And I knew that I was either going to make a depressing message out of it or use it for good. And I really wanted Dear God to be a safe place for people to have a conversation and make people aware of the fact that even though I've got a mic and a spotlight, it does not mean that I don't wake up every morning going, am I really good enough?
Wow.
Today's a perfect example. Like, am I really qualified to be speaking to these people on these terms? So there's this constant battle, and I wanted people to know that it's not exclusive. It's not just you. You're not alone. I face these same things. I have, I'm insecure about how many insecurities I have, but I think that's what makes my song. That's what makes me a songwriter. That's what makes me need to songwrite, because I need an outlet. So anyway, so in sharing that, I shared this weakness, right, with all the world, and the response still brings me to tears, because first couple of shows, I had kind of incorporated with my message, like, hey, let this be a reminder. Number one, you're not alone, but two, you're good enough. You are loved, and you are meant to be exactly who you are. And one of the first shows after the song came out, which the song has been streamed like way, way above our expectations and shared, but someone had printed out these signs. And it's happened now at like 3 or 4 different shows. One person will print out like hundreds of signs, and at the beginning of the song, everyone in the audience is sharing this message. And the best part is, I was shocked that they were reminding me that I was good enough, right? But they were also using this song as a platform and starting campaigns on their own to like encourage people around them. And I was seeing these really cool videos on Instagram pop up, and all these comments and supporting each other. So they built their own like community of support based on the message of that song. And I was scared to just put the song out there because it says shit in it. And it talks about all these sort of, battling demons, and it's a bit of a dark topic, but in a good way, I think, because my message is, I feel like I get handed these big questions so that I can ask and he can answer in a big way. That's what my belief is and my message. So that song totally caught me off guard, and I was very hesitant to have that be the first song off of this new album, because in a marketing scheme like that makes no sense. Yeah. To go that deep, that quick, but it worked. It was, and not necessarily worked. It took on a life of its own, I guess. It was a reactive song amongst my friends, amongst our team. And it totally caught me off guard. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, you just surprised and delighted me, and I'm sure some others out here. I mean, you gave us an insight into not only the creative process, which is great, but you gave us some deep insight into Hunter, and thank you for that, for sure. That's amazing. This is unscripted right now, but I want to open it to the floor. If anybody has any questions for Hunter. I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot in advance.
I love it.
But if anybody has any questions, I ain't
going to answer a question I don't want to answer. I'll tell you that right now. I'll creatively get out of it.
I have a few more questions that we'll go back to, but I think after what you just said, let's hear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'd be curious, how do you manage all of the responsibilities that you have, and really how do you allocate even the time of your day and your week?
That seems like 5 different topics that I could spend hours on. Sorry, so when you say responsibility, like how do you mean that?
Well, I imagine, obviously, in today's world, you're not just writing music, and so your responsibility isn't just to craft new songs and perform them, but then kind of the subject is to also appear and do other things that kind of come with that role that you occupy. So I imagine there's actually responsibilities that I wouldn't even know about. That you, a modern artist, have to kind of carry. And so I'm just curious, how do you do that each day and each week?
Yeah, I guess there is a lot. There's a lot. As far as
you're going to stress them out now.
Yeah, actually, it's been great. I got to go.
Time for this.
I'm the most irresponsible person you'll probably ever meet in your life, honestly. And I think where that works to my advantage is I know immediately in a moment whether I am serving that purpose or not serving that purpose. And so I tend to lean into, even though it's not a discipline to practice by the longest stretch of the imagination, I tend to lean into whatever I'm really passionate about at that moment. So I guess what I'm getting at is responsibility-wise, I mean, I don't know that, put it this way, the days that I think about my responsibilities as responsibilities, I'm overly depressed and incredibly stressed, feel exhausted and all those things. It's all how, it's so cheesy, but it really is. It's what you make it. It really is. You have either the responsibility of posting on social media or the opportunity to share your, goofy ass, unedited, unfiltered self on social media. And I'm still learning how to do that. By no means have I mastered it, and I don't think I ever will. I think it's going to be a learning process for me, and I'm surrounded by people who are really freaking good at it, thank heavens. But as far as, I'm trying to get to the heart of your question to make sure that I actually properly answer it. But I feel like, honestly, I've tried to be a lot of things by, I think this is the answer. I've gone through several different stages. When I moved to Nashville, I had nothing to lose because I had nothing. And it was just like, make the music you love. And, I had a great team around me who was kind of helping me. Because we write like 100 to 200 songs to get like a 10-song record, right? So this is a process. We don't just write 10 songs and we're like, that's the record. It's not that at all. And so I have a great team of people around me that was, helping me, because obviously there's songs that I care about because they're my heart, they're my soul. I'm pouring out my life, right? So I can't make business decisions based on those songs, and I can't make those songs based on business decisions, which is what I fell into on the other side. Flip side, success, I felt a responsibility to write certain kinds of songs, and honestly, that's where I was for the past 4 years. I was trying to please everybody but myself. And when I finally said, screw it, I'm writing what I want to write, I wrote the first song that my entire team reacted to, which was One Shot. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not supposed to. And I think when I let go of that, it's the subtle art of not giving it. You get it. It's when I finally kind of let go of the word responsibility is when I'm able to handle it. I know that I'm good at certain things. Some days I'm creative in a marketing scenario, and I jump into that role if I can, because I find something that I can speak to honestly without having to think about it. But yeah, if you think about it that way, it'll just slowly bring you down to the ground. Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have people that manage your social media for you that are really good at it. I think
With me.
Right? So you're a brand. That's what we do. We market brands.
Right.
We manage content. Or we have brand managers that are afraid of having too much exposure, too much content. How much do you do yourself? How do you control how that's going out, right? How do you direct them on what you want your brand to be so it's true to you? And how much are other people doing?
It's been simple. It's a simple algorithm. I've got an incredible team. They all work very hard, and they will all tell you how frustrated they get with me, because at the end of the day, nothing goes out unless if it's words, it has to come from me. And they can, say, hey, we're thinking about doing something like this, and until I've responded, nothing goes out. If it's an image, until I've approved it, nothing goes out. And that keeps it on brand because, if I'm scared of it, there's a reason for it. Or if it feels unauthentic, hey, tune into this, or guys, check out my new, I delete those, text suggestions and I start from scratch, Because for me, the brand is me, which is, that could go both ways. But it has to be something like if I read it and I'm like, that's an ad, then it's like, we're not doing that. I'm gonna speak to what excites me about it, and hopefully that will move people the right direction. I'm not gonna tell them to go look at something, you know what I mean? I'm gonna share it in an authentic way, which drives my team absolutely bonkers. But for me, that's always been my thing. I never want anything posted that somebody is like, hey, did you do this? And I have to look at them and go, no, I had no idea that went out. So that's something that I feel very passionate about, regardless of how much it annoys everybody on my team. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Hey, Leslie, that's a smart question. It's a tough question. It's a really relevant question. And it's something that, Hunter can tell us that, and we have to believe him because the evidence is in his relationship with his fans. You can't fake authenticity. You cannot fake authenticity.
Yeah.
And if Hunter was faking it, if he had other people posting for him or other stuff going out that wasn't Hunter, then Hunter wouldn't have that kind of relationship that he does have.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
As you're thinking about your day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year, as your story has developed since you started, what do you want your legacy to be? What's the end game? Because obviously the end game will dictate the day-to-day. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
Honestly, I haven't thought into what my legacy would be, because that would stress me out. But what I've thought about is, it's as simple as can I represent that in 60 years, because I've seen too many fantastic artists with some giant success with some, move that they made, which granted, I've made a couple of those moves myself, and I'm speaking from experience, but, one song or a record or a series of records that, 50 years from now, you go to see this artist, and they're like, no, I'm not playing anything from that era. I would hate to have that. And for me, as long as it came from a real place at some point, even though I'm not necessarily connected to it now, I'm still proud of it, and I'll play it as long as people will come to the show to hear it. And so I think that's the thing. Do you want to be saying this in 50 years? When they ask you about this in the long play game, will you be able to smile when you explain why you did it? Will you feel good about it? There's so many things that there's a couple things that I've done, short-term things that I was like, I think I need to do this for my business, and I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong because I did it out of a place of fear. I was afraid that if I didn't do it, I would not succeed. And what's funny is that same fear is so irrelevant because after seeing the tides of all of this, it's like none of that's going to matter in 10 years. Only the fact that you don't want to play that one song, and you compromised on something, and oftentimes, even though that's not necessarily discernible at face value, subconsciously people know that. People can feel that, Yeah.
So, question?
Hey, Hunter, so to your point about the long game, you're 27, you're at the beginning of what's going to be an amazing career. Can you talk about another artist who's maybe at the middle or towards the end of his or her career who you really admire?
Yeah, I was up till 4 a.m. last night actually on the bus watching interviews of Paul McCartney. I love so much that the man has reinvented himself and let go of so many things for the sake of moving on and moving forward and growing. It would be so easy for the marketing-driven machine to say, no, the Beatles have to stay together and force them to hate each other. There's so many plausible outcomes for that whole scenario. But the growth wouldn't have happened, and the sincerity, the authenticity, we wouldn't have gotten so many pieces of music that are pivotal to the landscape of music as we move forward, because they were done in an era in the effort of staying absolutely undeniably present and maybe scared shitless, but in the best way. Okay, I'm leaving one of the most successful band in history, and I'm going to do this. And it's going to work because I believe it's going to work, because I know it's going to work. And it's scary, but it takes those moments of growth and those moments of regeneration and reimagining and reinventing, if you will. I prefer reimagining because I think reinventing often requires way too much thought and loses sincerity. But that's what I love about him. And the fact that last night I'm on YouTube and YouTube finds me this 16-minute clip. If you'd have told me that you got Paul McCartney to sit down for 16 minutes and do any kind of social media, anything, I'd have told you you're crazy. But he wants to do it because he cares about his album. He wants people to hear that. And he's also showing a new side of himself, which I love. He doesn't have to do that. You know what I mean? But he wants to. It's apparent that he wants to. And the fact that he's doing so much activity right now, he still cares. And I really admire that, and I really respect that. And it really opened the door for kind of what you said. It's funny because as a 22-year-old, even though I was only 22, I was afraid that my career was going to be, whatever, however many years long, because that's how so many. But that's because I was listening to people who think that way, whereas you look at somebody like him, you look at somebody like Stevie Wonder, you look at, U2, who keeps reinventing themselves without reinventing themselves, They stay true to what they're passionate about, what they care about, what matters to them, and it stays important, Relevance is only because, the question of relevance is only, I feel, born out of, well, we designed this to work around this specific era, and now we're out of that era, so what do we do now, So when I was 22, I was scared that I had a 10-year career, and now that I'm 27, I'm like, well, I've been at it for more than 10 years. So, you have that exciting moment of, this is only one page of my story, and it gets even more exciting to write the next page, So.
I love that you picked Paul McCartney because he's, that's a beacon, right? And one thing I've always observed about Paul McCartney is a quality I think you have is he's remained humble and he's remained, true to himself and authentic, just willing to put it out there, whatever that looks like. So, and in terms of, authenticity, let's build off that, and I'm gonna actually pivot just a little bit and bring it back a little bit to kind of brand marketing talk, but. From an authenticity standpoint, from being true to yourself, what do you look for when considering brands to engage with or brands to be an ambassador for?
I mean, obviously, you want it to be something you're already familiar with and something that you can already back, I'm proud of a lot of the stuff we've done because it is done with that filter of, but would I talk about it anyway? I want to build a big show for my fans, so yes, any money looks good, but at the same time, what we've kind of started looking out for as a team, and me personally, just because again, when I'm talking to fans, I want to know that when they ask about something, I'm able to talk directly to them, is not just a campaign, but a campaign with a message, a campaign with a mission of some kind. I love when a larger corporation or something has this really big movement they want to be a part of or start or contribute to, or this message, just like, hey, we're going to take a break from like this, and we're going to do a whole like, for instance, You're Good Enough campaign. I'm in. If I've heard about them or if I haven't heard about them, as long as the why feels close to where I'm at, then it's like, okay, conversations can start happening. Does that make sense? Does that kind of
It does make sense.
add up to your question?
Yeah, it does. And I'm actually going to flip the question to the audience as well. When you, as marketers, when you're looking for, talent to work with, what anybody can shout out, but what do you look for when you're looking for talent to work with? Any thoughts? I don't want to answer my own question. That would be bad form. So
It's cool, guys. It's cool.
It's
It's
cool.
fine.
I
It's
know.
totally fine.
I put every one of you guys on the spot right there.
I would think that, I haven't hired talent, so I'm speaking out of turn slightly, but I would think that flexibility in meeting the objective of the client and humility would be two things I think would be important, and obviously just the personality of being able to work back and forth with you and your team. Because again, I'm sure that there are others that could be on that stage now, or that could be hired for something like that would not have that type of personality. So that's what I would think.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. And so we invited Hunter, and we asked Hunter to come because we know that, one, Hunter is an authentic and an exceptional, representative of the country music industry. We know also that country music aligns well with Walmart shoppers, and coincidentally, we're launching a CMT shopper offering. So all of these things kind of made a lot of sense. So it's a matter of, I said it earlier, it's a matter of aligning with your brand and aligning with the retailer, with Walmart's brand priorities or what they stand for. And it's not an easy thing to find, when your priorities meet up with the brand's priorities, meet up with the retailer's priorities. But when you do, it can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think it's also really important that I know my audience, and I know that when they see, we can start designing something together with a partnership. That I know that when they see it, they're gonna know that it came from the right place. Like, it's just instinctively you trust it, because it's not off brand for me. It's not off message for me. You know what I mean? That's for me. I feel like from the outside looking in, that's something that I see as a priority for me.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you said trust, because there's a trust deficit in our industry. But when you work with authentic, talent that has that connection that Hunter has, you can build that trust again.
Yeah.
So, any other questions in the audience? Amanda? You're eyeballing. No question. Okay. Yes, please.
I'm sure you have tons of fans and followers, but do you kind of watch, are you like, oh, I just want 1,000 more, or do you just kind of let it go, and also, how do you, what's success to you?
I love that you asked that question. I used to think about it. I used to look at it right when things started really taking off. And I had one night that I can still hardly recover from, reading a fake story that a fan, actually it wasn't, to be honest with you. It was someone that had come to a show who didn't know me at all, or my music, and had sort of made up this story that was basically put me in a place I wasn't in. We had a mascot at the time, and there was this weird interaction. It wasn't inappropriate. It was the mascot was still and didn't talk and didn't interact with anybody, and they thought it was me. And so I just got slammed all night long. And you would think that oh, you signed up for this. That's crap. I put my heart and soul into this, and for a reason. And so it wrecked me. And so I had to separate from kind of looking to that for any kind of the numbers and all those things. I had to reapproach how I look at it, and completely reevaluate how I approach it. So I look at it with more of a treasure for who's there, and less of I let the team figure out the numbers stuff. Anything with numbers, typically, I don't want anything to do with in general. And
Unless it's number one on the billboard, right?
then I care. Yeah.
That's a good number.
Then I care. I care a lot. But success, honestly, is that looking back on what being able to do what I love. Being able to get on the road, play shows. Talking to fans that have heard Dear God and hearing incredible life stories that they're willing to share with me. Because, again, they're in a safe place. It's a trustworthy experience. Or one shot. Just had somebody share their one-shot experience today, and it was amazing. I was like, thank God. So, that's success to me, being able to do what I love for a living, honestly. That's success, and huge success. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question piggybacking a little bit. So in keeping with your authenticity and that kind of thing, obviously you open yourself up to the public, there's going to be some criticism, some negative commentary. How do you as an artist or as a person separate yourself from that and not, take it, ingest it and get all worked up?
The same way every one of us does. The same way. And if I don't feel equipped to handle it, then I just don't look at all. Never read reviews. Unless somebody sends it to me and is like, dude, you got to see this. Then I'll read it. Then I'll check it out. But never look at, I'm very careful about which comments I look at. You know what I mean? In fact, I rely on my team to kind of see a conversation and bring me into the conversation so that if I'm going to respond, it's kind of it's a good place and I'm not putting myself at risk. Because it does matter a lot to me. It's my heart, it's my soul. So honestly, I don't know how to necessarily handle it. So I handle it as best I can, carefully, one day at a time. And yeah, and at the end of the day too, man, I think I've learned a lot about people through this process. And the fact that You know, like I saw this one thing this morning accidentally, and I just had to laugh because it's like, man, you spent a lot of time doing that. You could have done something really productive, but for some reason that was important to you, so I hope you feel better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to kind of like, you know what, I've had bad days too, so, you know, you honest answer is I have no idea. I have no idea. I handle it the best way I can that day, you know? And some days it's better than others, you know?
So I just want to recap two things, you know, that I heard you say. You answered Sarah's question, you know, you said same way as everybody does. And that's you know, that's real, man. I mean, this guy's the real deal. I mean, he's completely authentic. He's like you and I, except that he has a tour bus and a bunch of awards. But other than that, I mean, he's the real deal. He's authentic. I might have a tour bus one day. You don't know.
Yeah. You should totally get
We
one.
don't know. I mean,
Get a company tour bus, dude. Are you kidding me?
An RV. Well played, Dan. The other thing you said, and you said this earlier on, and it's sticking with me, and you said it in context of posting, but I think it's relevant to whatever you do on a day-to-day basis. But you can choose to say, I have an obligation to post, or I have an opportunity to post. And it's a matter of just shifting that perspective. And that's inspirational. That's whiteboard stuff. So I love that.
Yeah, all of my favorite like speakers and just in general, I don't know. It's just like it's up to you. You're gonna wake up and you're gonna have a day. You can decide whether you're happy. In fact, Andy and I talked about that in the podcast about like money and like chasing things. And it's like, you know what? I've seen both sides. I had this mentality for a hot second. If I get to this point, whatever this point is, whether it's a number on a chart, a number on social media, a number of financial whatever, then I'll be happier. And it never worked. It never did that. I was always chasing something else because I'm a chaser. I will always be chasing something. I have to decide to be happy right now, and only I can decide that. I'm the only one who can start from a place of I'm happy now. And I think you just get happier by way of not making happiness depend on any other currency than what's good for you.
Those are smart words, great words to end on. But I want to open it up one more time. Anyone else have any questions? I mean, this has been so brilliant, and
they're like, he's talked enough. Let's move on. It's the
No.
last thing. We're ready for dinner. Let's get out of here.
You've been generous with your time, and I appreciate that. And congratulations on an exceptional career, but I know you're just getting started.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate you saying
thank you
that.
so much.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Appreciate that.